We are going to start week 5 with a quick review from last week, which was week 4, and then move into solving proportions. So we talked about two ratios, which if they're equal make a proportion, but we want to know if these two ratios are equal. We talked about several different ways to check that, but for the most part I said just to kind of keep things in line for what we're moving into, the easiest way to check this is multiply your diagonals. So if we do 4 times 3, we get 12, and 2 times 9 is 18. So since those numbers are different, that would be no, it is not equal or proportional. So if we move on to the second one, if we do the diagonals again is what we're focusing on. So 2.5 times 64, we get 160. And then 10 times 16 is also 160. So then this would be, yes, they are proportional. All right, that's what we did earlier last week. And then we moved into equations. So let's solve a couple of equations. Remember here we're trying to get the 2w equal to 94. So in order to do that, we need to figure out what that w equals. So to work it backwards, if we say 2 times w, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by 2 because that's what's with our variable. So 2 divided by 2 is going to leave me that plain w. And then 94 divided by 2. If we're not sure what that is, we can always do 94 divided by 2, and that gives us 47. Now the nice thing about this is we can always go back and check our work. We want to make sure that 2 times w is 94. So we want to make sure that if w is 47, that 2 times 47 gives us that 94, and it does, so we know we got that one correct. Well, can't separate my papers this morning. All right, the next one. This one looks backwards, so I like to take it and flip it around and put my 3a equals 96. I just find that there's less mistakes made if we keep our variable on the left side. We don't have to, but that helps most people most of the time. So if it's 3 times a, the opposite of multiplying again is dividing both sides by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is going to leave me a. 96 divided by 3 is going to be 32. And if I want to double check that, I'm going to say 3 times 32, which is 3 times a, and make sure that gives me that 96. So 32 times 3 does give us that 96 that we were looking for. So we know we got that one right. Okay. So now what we're going to do is put those two steps together to solve a proportion. So now, like we did earlier, we've got a ratio here and a ratio here, and I want to know what can I put in that x spot to make them equal. Well, we may be able to look at it and see what the scale factor is, but a lot of times we're not going to be able to, so we might as well just go on and solve it. Again, we're going to focus on the diagonals. I like to start wherever my variable is just because I want to keep my variable on my left. So this means 3 times x. So I'm going to put 3x. So I'm making an equation just like what we just solved. And then I'm going to multiply this diagonal, which is 12 times 5. And 12 times 5 gives us 60. So now this is what we were just solving. So if it's 3 times a, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by 3, and a equals 20. Now the good thing is I can go back and check this. Not a, I should have put an x there. Not that it really matters, but because it's a variable, but x. So if I put for 20, if I put x for 20, if I double check and put 20 times 3, 20 times 3 is 60, and 5 times 12 is 60. So it's easy to quickly check and make sure that we got everything correct. Okay, so let's try another one. Again, we're going to focus on the diagonals. I like to find my variable and that's where I start. So this time I'm going to start with 3h. So 3 times h, and then I'm going to do my other diagonal, which is 6 times 25. 6 times 25 is going to give us 150. So if it's 3 times h, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3 because that's what's with my variable, and I'm left with h equals 350 divided by 3. So if we want to do it in the calculator, we know that that is 50. So again, the nice thing is we can come up here, instead of h, I can put 50, and I can just double check and make sure it's right. 6 times 25, we already did that one time, and it told us 150. And if we do 50, 50, 50, we know that's 150 also. So we know that we got that one right as well. Okay, again, all we're doing to start with is focusing on our diagonals. I'm going to go wherever my variable is. This time it is 9x. So I'm going to do 9 times x. And then I'm going to focus on this other diagonal, which is 3 times 24, which is 72. So if it's 9 times x, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by 9. 9 divided by 9 gives us 1. And x and 1x is the same amount of x's. So then 72 divided by 9, most of us should be able to do that in our head. But if you double checked it, that is 8. So now, if I put an 8 where that x is, and I go back to what we were doing earlier last week and just double check, 3 times 24, which we've already done one time, is 72. And then 9 times 8, if you want to double check it, is 72. So we know that we got that problem right as well. Just a couple more, same concept. Look at those diagonals. I should put an equal sign right there. So I'm going to start with my 13x. So 13 times x equals 15 times 39, which is 585. So 13 times x, opposite of multiplying, I'm going to divide both sides by 13. That cancels out, and x equals, I'm going to do 585, and I'm going to divide by 13, and that gives me 45. So I'm going to take that 45, and I'm going to put it where that x is. So I've already done 15 times 39, and I got 585. Now if I do 13 times 45, I get 585 again. And that lets me know that I got that problem correct as well. All right, one more to go. I'm going to start with the diagonal with my variable, so that's going to be 4x equals, I can't do that in my head, so 7.5 times 3.2, and that is 24. And if we divide both sides by 4, we get x equals 6. So now if I double check my math, if I put a 6 where this x is, 6 times 4 is 24. Now we just multiply this one time, but if we want to just do it again, just to be on the safe side, it is 24. So that means that we got all of our problems correct. So I have a few problems for you to practice, and if you have questions, email me or call me. I don't want you confused, so take the time to ask for questions.